Hi, everyone. My name is Kim, and I'm the founder and creator of Expat Mama. Through these interviews that are both in the audio podcast and the new YouTube channel, we educate people about what it's like to be an expat, which is someone who's left their native country to live in another, and we tell their stories. Today, my guest is Ashley Mercado from Kansas in the US. She currently lives in Matagalpa, Nicaragua. I'm so excited to interview her. Welcome, Ashley. Ashley, how are you doing today? I am going to get Ashley right. Darn it.
It's okay.
Hard name. It's not a hard name.
It's okay. All the people here say it differently too, so you fit in right.
Okay, cool. And you're the first person that I've interviewed in Nicaragua, so I'm thrilled.
Oh,
I've
awesome.
interviewed lots of people from other countries, but Nicaragua has not been one. So you are the pioneer for Nicaragua.
Oh, I'm setting the stage.
Yeah, you're setting the stage. So why don't we start with your origins, where you're from, what you grew up, what your childhood was kind of like.
I grew up in Pennsylvania. Not a very exciting life. Just kind of stayed at home, didn't have any world experiences until I moved to college, and nurse college kind of opens your eyes to a lot of different things, whether good or bad. But I was pretty much a wallflower. I really didn't go out places. And so going on a missions trip to Nicaragua was like a big step for me because I was being around a group of college students my age. And so just getting to know them, that was a big thing for me. And then also just stepping into another culture was kind of crazy as well, especially since I did not speak the language. I just knew colors and numbers, and that was it. I think at that point I was like, yo hablo un poquito español. I speak a little bit, but at that point you really don't speak a little bit. You can't count that. But I just think it's kind of funny when I go back and look at that. But it was really interesting, really eye-opening to come to Nicaragua the first time and just see and make that comparison between Nicaragua and the US, and all the good things, all the bad things between the two countries was really, really interesting for me to see. And it kind of kept me coming back. I did a mission trip after that, just like a 1 week one. The first one was 3 weeks. But on that first one, I met my future husband, and we were working with his dad's church association because his dad is was a pastor. And it was not his plan, apparently, to be with our group for 3 weeks, the 3 weeks that we were there. I did not find that out until we were into our marriage, 8 years. And I was like, oh my goodness, you decided that you were going to stay with the group for 3 weeks after you met me. And I don't even know what he left off of his schedule or work or whatever to be with the group. But apparently I was that important for him to spend those 3 weeks with me, carrying my backpack and just sticking to me like glue, basically. I get a lot of teasing from the group for all that. And they're just like, oh, Ashley and Armando are hanging out. Yeah. So that was interesting. And it to make it even more complicated, like I said, I didn't really speak any Spanish when I first came down, and he didn't speak any English. So we're sitting on the bus or sitting off to the side from the group with this 97-cent English-Spanish dictionary I got from Walmart, and just butchering the languages because we're just trying to practice saying stuff. And so I would say gustar la falda and just very bad Spanish, but we were just practicing and writing things down. I think I still have those papers saved somewhere just to look back and laugh at how bad our languages were. But yeah, fast forwarding, we got married a couple years later, and we made trips once a year, twice a year over the next 5-6 years. And just said, we're going to move back to Nicaragua someday, because that was the decision we made before we got married. Because you obviously have to choose a country that you're going to live in. And we just felt that Nicaragua was a better fit for us, primarily because all his family's here, and his family's huge. Sure. He has 50 cousins, and he's like, oh, you remember this person? I'm like, no, there's a ton of people in your family. I'm used to 3 cousins, and
It's
that's
like
it.
they have to remember one name and you have to remember 50 just for the cousins alone. That doesn't even include the rest of the family.
Yeah, it's not fair. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, large family. We wanted to be close to them. For me, I'm okay with being away from my family because I have lived far away since I was 18 and went off to college. So I'm okay with like calling my mom now, doing the video chat, talking to my sister online. Like that's totally okay for me. But for him, that was really hard to leave Nicaragua and come to the US and be away
Yeah.
from family. So we wanted to make that choice to come back here. So that was one reason, but another reason, cheaper living, the life here is just so much more simpler. Like you don't
Yeah.
get stressed out by all these little things. It's not such a fast-paced life.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were some values that we wanted to have in our lives, put in our kids' lives, in addition to, incorporating the Spanish into their language because they didn't really get that in the US. I depended on my husband to speak Spanish to them and he didn't.
He didn't. Okay, so
No.
you met in what year?
2008.
2008. Now we're in 2021, almost 22. So, and when did you make that big jump to live there? Get married, or I mean, what was that process like where you came to make that decision, like we're going to live in Nicaragua instead of the US?
I don't know when exactly we came to that conclusion. It was probably just one of those conversations. I'd say conversations very lightly because we were still very much in the language learning process at that time. But we came to that conclusion before we got married. So probably 2009. So very soon after we they're like after we got engaged, I would say.
Yeah.
We made that choice about where we wanted to live.
And then what happened? You made the leap.
Yeah.
What was it like living there? Because I mean, I've done the same thing. And it was the first time it was because of love. I got married to, in my case, it was Argentina. Made the leap down there thinking it would be just a couple of years, ended up being 16,
Okay.
So what was it like? Because living down there is very different from taking mission trips back and forth and short visits. So let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I felt like I was really prepared throughout like all the trips that I had taken because when I came down, I didn't stay in like hotels or expat places or whatever. We stayed with his family and got to go up in the mountains and see his grandparents and experience like, water or buckets of water that you have to fill up and no running water into the house or, watching out for scorpions. I mean, like his family is not well off or anything. So I got to like, rough it. Americans would think it's kind of roughing it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure it is. Yeah.
So it felt like I kind of got all these bits and pieces of what life would be like before actually moving here. I also like scoped out like the groceries and I'm in charge of all the cooking and stuff. And I wanted to know like, what are things I can get here that I'm used to getting in the United States? What do I have to like improvise on? What things am I going to have to make from scratch? And I love to cook and bake. So that was a really important part for me. So I would go into grocery stores with a notebook and just like take down all those notes. So like in reality, I had like a ton of exploratory trips beforehand, which were really helpful and preparing me to move here. Like I did not get homesick when I moved here just because I felt comfortable already for the most part. I remember like the first week I was here, I did have some moments of crying, but that's because I'm like, my husband is not getting the house done and we need to move into the house because I don't want to stay in my in-laws forever. I love them, but I'm like, I need my own space to spread out all my stuff, not like be living out of a suitcase. But yeah, other than that, I was okay with being here.
Okay. So you had a softer landing than a lot of people probably would have had. And in the area where you live, what's it like?
Well, right now it's very dry because we're in the cool and dry season in the winter. But it's very mountainous and that makes it a lot cooler. A lot of the expats will go down south to be near the beach, the ocean. And that's just where like a lot of more amenities you'll find down there, nicer stores, restaurants and stuff. I don't necessarily want to be around all of that. I would like to have access to it or maybe go there on occasion, but I want to be in an immersive atmosphere just so my language skills get better. I understand where people are coming from a little bit better. And up here in the mountains, it's cooler. Like I said, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I do like the cold. I miss snow. So I have to like put snow up on my screen in December to see that it's like snowing, to kind of get that feel and pretend like
It
I'm there.
doesn't snow there, certainly,
No,
right?
it doesn't snow.
Yeah.
But if I do want to like have like some sweater weather, can't say that.
Sweater weather. That
yeah,
is
it's
a
a tongue
tongue
twister.
twister. I'm gonna add that to my classes too. Yeah.
If I want that cold weather, we'll go up to the mountains to Jinotega, which is fairly close by. It's like a 20-25 minute drive, but you can just feel the temperature change as you go up that way. And it's so nice, cool, refreshing. And that's kind of like my escape. But I mean, it's still pretty cool here in the wintertime. So I like it.
Yeah, that sounds. So what's the temperature like in certain months of the year? What's it like? What climate are you living in? Besides, you said it's cooler, but what exactly? Let's get more specific on that.
Yeah. So like March to April is the hottest times. So it'll get like between 90, 95, somewhere around there, although it could feel hotter around midday. For the winter, I think I woke up one morning and I checked my phone and it said 62 degrees. And so for us, that's like, you need a sheet on the bed. Or for me, I'm like, okay, I'm a little chilly. I need a sheet. My husband's all bundled up in a blanket or 2 sheets or something like that. And I'm just like, okay, you're nuts. Like, that's too much. Yeah. He's a classic Nicaraguan where he'll just like be bundled up in a sweater when all the expats or whoever is like, yeah, it's fine. This is perfect weather.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I mean, I'm in Mexico, so we lived in a time in a near Cancun. It's not that near. It's about 4 hours away, called Mérida, and it is considered one of the hottest cities on this planet. And I just remember when we first got there, I'm dying of heat, and then come January, it got down to 90 degrees. And we were freezing our buddies off. And I was like, what in the world is going on? I had to buy blankets for us. And I'm like, why am I buying blankets at 90 degrees? It seemed like a, complete waste of whatever.
Yeah.
And it is all what you become accustomed to, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What you can adapt to. Yeah. So I just thought that was really interesting because I'm from Utah in the US, which is obviously cold. So I'm like, why am I freezing in this temperature? It's just kind of crazy. So where are you at? Is it humid?
It is at certain times. It's worse if you go down to Managua, the capital, because they're at sea level. We're about 2,000 feet, I believe. So there, I mean, you just like go down there and you're like sweating nonstop. At certain times, we were down there to take my mom back to the airport yesterday, and I mean, you just halfway through your day, you're just like, I need a shower now. It's just any time of the year, you're just like, it's so hot and
hot, muggy, and yucky.
Yeah,
that's not fun. So it sounds like where you're at is pretty pleasant.
Yeah, nice. I'm glad we're up here in the north, and I mean, we chose really this area just because his parents chose to live here, and so we live like 2 blocks away from them. Free babysitting, very good incentive.
Yes.
But the the climate is also nice as well.
Nice. And what's your family life like? How many kids do you have?
I have 4 because I am crazy.
That doesn't mean you're crazy.
Well, something happened. They keep us really busy. We got 2 boys and 2 girls. So Isaiah, Micah, Sophia, and Leah. And they're between 9 and 1. So lots of energy going on in their house. I'm surprised there's no yelling or crying or whatever right now.
So your kids range from 9 to 1, you say?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, there's lots going on there. And are your kids bilingual? How does that work?
They are pretty fluent at this point, just because they've been around my in-laws quite a bit, and
Mhm.
conversing with their cousins and like neighbor kids and things like that. So when they came down, they really did not know any Spanish other than a few words. I tried in the US, but I mean, it's hard when they're already like 6, 7, and you're trying to put them in an immersive atmosphere. They kind of bulk.
So you guys, excuse me, so you did live married in the US for a while?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's what we didn't include. In my mind,
Oh,
I'm
I
thinking
skipped
you
over
did
that,
what
yeah.
I did. I got married and just moved down there. So you had lived in the US for a while and
Mhm.
tried that. Okay.
Yeah, we got married here in Nicaragua, but I had to leave 2 months after we got married because I had to go back and work and start paying off my student loans. This was right after I graduated college. And so we were apart for most of our first year of marriage just because I didn't make enough to sponsor a visa for him to come to the US. And then a pastor and his wife from the church we had attended, they felt led in their hearts to be his sponsor for the visa. And so then he came over like, was it 14, 15 months after we got married? He was there in the US with me. And so that was 2011. And so about 10 years we were in the US.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So quite a bit of big amount of time. And that was, we kept saying we're going to move back like in a couple of years to Nicaragua, but then we kept having kids and then we got a house and then we had some cars. And so all of that kind of slows you down a little bit
Oh,
and
yeah.
like the financial side of things. And so, and then we started building here. And so it just took a little bit longer than we thought to get back down here.
So you built a house in a foreign country. What was that
Yes.
process like?
A little bit of a headache, more on my husband's part
Yeah.
than mine, because he was in charge of designing it. And after, well, we're not done with the house, but like at this point, he's like, I think we made the house too big. I'm like, yeah, probably. Like it's huge. It's a mansion compared to Nicaraguan houses. But we had his cousin build it. And even though you have family doing that kind of work for you, like in a place like Nicaragua, you really have to keep your eyes on the project and check everything.
Everything.
Yeah, because customer service is not like it is in the US.
Nope.
If they make a mistake, you have to go back and fix it. Well, I mean, they'll fix it, but you have to pay for them to fix it, pay them their time and their materials for them to fix that. So that was a little bit of a culture shock thing for me and a little aggravating. It's aggravating for my husband, and he's even Nicaraguan. He's probably just taking in a lot of that US, those expectations and brought them down.
And he'd probably become more, not that he's completely American with that mentality, but that he raised his expectations as far as customer service going and responsibility for workers to actually do what they say they're going to do, right? Something like that.
Yeah, and in a timely manner because things go so slow.
Yes. Yeah. That is the characteristic that I found throughout most of Latin America is things are going to get done mañana if they get done. You know, they're going to get done at some point in the future, but it takes a lot of persistence, certainly a lot of patience, right?
Yes.
Is your house done now though?
I mean, we've been living in it for months. We're still without like electricity in half the house.
Okay.
We just got running water. We had water in barrels and stuff like that. But we just got like the water pump to pump it into the house. And see, we don't have ceilings in.
You don't have ceilings in?
No, it's I mean, we have like a roof ceiling,
a makeshift roof until it gets done. Yeah.
Well, no, like there's the roof, but then like I don't know all these construction terms or whatever, but just the part that covers up all the wires and the beams and all that.
Oh,
that
I see.
Part's
okay.
Not done.
Okay, there's a difference between roof and ceiling, of course. You've got the roof, but the inside part is what
inside, yes.
It's pretty much exposed still, and you need to like, cover that up and stuff. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, must be our next big project.
Yeah, but look, I mean, you've got your house now. You've got your own house, casa propia, you know. And how does it feel, every little thing that you get done in your house? I've been through this experience, so I want to hear your take on this.
Well, it definitely makes you appreciate it more. I mean, just because you have to wait such a long time and you have to make sure it's done right, find the right materials or whatever, because it's not like you can just run out to Lowe's and Hobby Lobby and get the right thing and get it installed and be done with it or whatever. So when something does happen, it's just like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. Like when we got our flooring done, I'm like, this is awesome. I don't have to walk across these like cold, dirty stones anymore. I get to put my feet on some very nice tile.
Mhm.
So yeah, every little thing that we
It's
do
so
is
much
amazing.
fun, isn't it? It's just, it's like, I remember when we worked on our house in Argentina that we bought, and every little thing that we put into our house, and everything was done with sacrifice, of course. There's no doubt
Mhm.
about it. Just because you're an expat doesn't mean you're loaded with money either, which is
Right.
a lot. I don't know if there is definitely mentality here in Mexico that if you're a gringa or gringo, a foreigner, for those who don't know that term. Do they say gringo or gringo, or is there another word for people like us? People like us, that sounds funny. Like Americans, for example.
You're right. Yeah. No, they'll use gringo and gringa, and they also use chele and chela a lot. And it's none of it's derogatory. I know some people usually
Okay.
think it is, but yeah, it's totally normal here.
Is there a mentality that just because you're from the US, you have money?
Yes, like I am not allowed to go like pick out certain things or order like the bed frame that we have for our bed, because the price will be jacked up if they see me. And so I'm like, oh, that's not cool. Like, if that happened in the US, so like people would be screaming like racism or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, like
definitely.
here, unfortunately, that's just how it is. I don't necessarily know why, but yeah, I mean, there are other examples. They'll be making the price higher just because we're lighter skinned or from
So
a different
the
country.
fact that your Spanish is at a good level
Yeah,
doesn't matter. They're gonna look at you and you're like, yeah.
money.
Yeah, there's money right there. So
Yeah,
let's go ahead and make
yeah,
ourselves for the day,
yeah. I mean, I get it. I definitely do have more money than many Nicaraguans, just because this is a third world country. But it's not like I can go out and buy a $300,000 house tomorrow. I mean, like I
No,
don't have that
no,
kind of money. I still work really hard for what I do have. So,
exactly. I'm so thankful that you actually said that, because same here. I mean, I work a ton to put bread and butter on the table. In my case, I am single mom, but and there's nothing better or worse than any other. I'm just so thankful to be living abroad again. In your case, you got support, but you're somewhat limited in what you can do because of these types of things, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I remember getting, another zero put on the price in Argentina, just because I didn't even know what the prices were in the first place. So yeah, the same thing. But it's not always that way, right? It can't always
Right.
be that way. Okay, but sometimes
Yeah.
people do take advantage. What about, for example, what is your home life like with your kids? Like, what are your kids involved in? What does a daily life in the day in Ashley's life look like? Is there
Well,
such?
we generally sleep in until 7, and I know like a lot of Americans be like sleep until 7, like that's yeah. But the day starts early in Central America with the dogs barking, chickens squawking, and we have a very lovely neighbor who will play music at like 5 in the morning and also like loudly off key sing with it. So
Oh, no.
that's our little alarm clock. I keep asking my husband to go say something to him, because there's times where I'm like ready to wake up, and there's times I'm like, please, someone go tell him to be quiet, please. Other people are still sleeping. But yeah, we'll get up, make some breakfast. We have an employee that comes around 7 or 8 usually, and she'll help with the dishes and the housekeeping and all of that. And she does all the laundry for us right now. We still have the good old fashioned scrub board that is
Oh,
very
wow.
common. Yeah. We did buy a washing machine because after we put the tile down in the laundry room, my husband's like, the water's going to go everywhere in there. And so now he's like, okay, we'll buy a washing machine, but he still needs to get it hooked up. So, but for right now, she's just scrubbing away and she's used to that. I would not be able to complete all that in one day. That's a lot of work.
No, that's a lot of work. Yeah.
They're very, I don't know what's in them. It's just like ingrained, like they can do it. And yeah, that's very admirable in my opinion. But anyway, so yeah, we'll eat breakfast and then try to get some schoolwork done with the kids. Right now, we're currently homeschooling. I'm trying to figure out like the best way to do that, just because that's not how I was trained. I'm a teacher. I taught in public schools, so homeschooling is a little bit different because I'm like, books, worksheets, all of that, but I'm trying to branch out and I want to make sure that they have some life skills and just do things that maybe we didn't get to do in the past. So that's been fun, but also kind of a struggle with just figuring it out. And then with working from home, just trying to find that good balance between making sure I'm teaching the kids and doing my stuff. And yeah, so we'll try to do some homeschooling, whatever that may look like. And then Maciel, our employee, usually cooks lunch and have some naps, some quiet time in the afternoon. And I might be baking something or making something for dinner at that point. I do like to make sourdough bread and different things. And I've started selling some things to different expats here. So that's kind of like a fun little side hustle that I have right now. So I'm working on like tightening those skills and stuff. And then we normally have dinner around 6, 7 o'clock. A lot of people here will eat like around 8, and I'm just like, no, that's my kids' bedtime. Like
That was Argentina.
they need to be asleep at 8. We're not going to eat dinner.
Like
at 8
no
o'clock.
restaurant in Argentina in Buenos Aires was open until like 8 p.m. And people like us that were still trying to adapt is like, are you kidding? We eat earlier,
Yeah.
So
the restaurants don't do that here. They're open whenever they want the business.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm really interested in knowing how it is. So you've got the employee. She arrives approximately what time in the morning?
7 or 8, just depends on my work schedule for the day.
And she stays all day until
about 4 or 5. Yeah, okay. She works Monday through Saturday. So I mean, and she's also my brother-in-law's girlfriend too. Okay. So she's kind of like family, and so she's been definitely a blessing to have, because I would not be able to do all of that and homeschool and do all of my other work stuff.
Can you imagine setting up the kind of life you have in Nicaragua in the US?
I probably wouldn't be able to do that. I just like time and money wise, it would be a real struggle. Like we never hired anyone in the US just because labor prices are, so much. I mean, like, I don't want to say worse, but there's just like a higher expectation there for that kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah, it would be practically impossible. Like we couldn't afford it really. So it's such a blessing to be able to get some extra help, so that you can actually free up some time to do other things that you want to do,
Right. Okay. Well, and it's also great because you're supporting the local economy and giving someone a job.
Yes. That they normally wouldn't have been paid as well as in a normal, like in a job where they're employed as in a household, right?
Yeah, it's going to depend on the job that you have. Like right now, we're in the middle of the coffee season, and we have like all these little beneficios all around us. So coffee processing plants, for someone who doesn't know what that is. And so we just have like tons of workers going out and working to process the coffee for all of the rest of us to enjoy. But that's really hard work. And so, some people want to go do that because they can't find work otherwise. And some people will like have a job, but then they'll leave that job and go work at the coffee place because that pays better than their other job. And so it's a very like come and go society in regards to work, if you're, kind of on that lower working spectrum, I guess.
Do they just get their daily wage for the most part? Is that kind of how that works for people? You pay them by the day, or I mean,
I think it's by the day.
Okay.
I believe it's either week or bi-monthly.
Okay, got it. Okay.
At least for the coffee workers. I'm not sure about other people. My husband pays our employee weekly.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and these And how far does she have to travel to get to your house, or she's just right there, not too far away from where you live?
She's in the same village or whatever you want to call it that we are. Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, because I just remember, like, in Mexico, the first place we lived in Merida, our house cleaner would have to travel 3 hours to our house to get 400 pesos, which is the equivalent of $20 to clean our whole huge house. It's a little bit less here in this area. I mean, she doesn't have to travel, but she was the first one traveled from, like, her Mayan pueblo, you know, her small town. And I just think that is such a sacrifice just to work, you know, and many people do it. And it's like you said, how do they even do what they do? Honestly, they're special kinds of people.
Yeah. And they really depend on family to do those kinds of jobs, because, like, if you're a mom and you have to go do that, you're going to be leaving your kids and, you know, like with the grandparents or with aunts or cousins, and they just kind of all rally together and help each other out. And like that was hard for me to just kind of be okay with that when I got here, because, like, I'd be struggling with the kids and trying to do work at the same time, like just like about ready to pull out my hair.
Yeah.
But my sisters-in-law were like, well, just bring the baby down, or, you know, bring 2 of them down and we'll watch them while you do some work. And I just felt like it was such an inconvenience in putting them out to ask them to do that. And I think that's just like American culture. Like, we don't want to, you know, put anyone out. We don't want to, like, take away from their life. But here, you know, it's like, just bring them on in. We'll take them. We'll watch them.
Amazing. That's what I love about families in Latin America. It's all about collaboration. It's all about let's help the other person. I'm sure you help them when you can as well with different things. So that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So let's talk about, for example, and then I'm going to come around and ask you to fill in the blanks of anything I didn't ask you. What about income sources specifically? Don't talk about how much you're earning. I'm not interested in talking numbers. That's boring. But what do you do? Like, how do you keep the home fires burning and things afloat financially?
Yeah, well, we probably have our irons in a lot of different fires, just like a lot of little businesses that kind of provide the whole thing for us. So my husband has a caponera business, which is a motor taxi. So it's like a metal kind of like frame on the front, and then like the whole motorcycle minus the front wheel on the back. And so they will drive around our village, taking people to and from the bus stop or wherever they need to go within a certain radius. So that provides quite a bit income on my husband's end of things. And then we also have a small venta, a small store where we'll sell like frozen chicken, or it's just kind of like your all-purpose store, soap, washing soap for clothes, dishes. You name it.
Is that right there in your home, like at the front of your house, and people come and buy?
Yeah, it's down by my in-laws' house. It used to be at the front of their house, and then we bought the land next to them and actually built a structure to have that there.
Good. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's my husband's 2 main sources of income. And then what I provide is selling resources on teachers, paid teachers. And then I also teach Spanish and do a little bit of tutoring on an online teaching platform. And so for me, that's my main source of income. And then I'm also doing like a little side hustle thing of making things like sourdough bread or cinnamon rolls and things like that for expats who really miss those kinds of things. Or, I mean, anybody can buy them, but it's just right now my only customers have been expats. So that's why I said that.
Let's talk about that part. What are the expats? How many expats are living there in that area approximately? What is that community like?
I wouldn't really say it's much of a community, just because there are fewer of us up here. All the people who don't like hot places are probably up here and on the beach at San Juan del Sur or in Managua sweating it out. I don't really know like how many are up here necessarily. I just hear bits and pieces of who is here or just meet them briefly. Some of them are a mixed family, Nicaraguan American or Nicaraguan. There's a Nicaraguan Swiss family up here. So there's some mixed ones, and then there's a Canadian family. I mean, I would say you could probably count them on two hands. That's probably about how many families are up here that I know of anyway. So it's definitely not touristy. It's very immersive.
Yeah. Do you guys get together as kind of the minority group in that area?
We did do an expat Thanksgiving dinner. We at a Christian school that is expat run. And so that they've been around a long time. They know all the people. So that kind of brings people out of the woodwork, so to speak. And so we got to meet some new people that way. And that was just like within like an hour and a half radius of where we're at. So pretty close by.
Nice that you're able to get together for Thanksgiving. That makes it special. Cool. Do they have kids too, or are they?
Yeah, some of the families did have kids. Some of them were like older retirees. A lot of people are missionaries. I think that's the first question that people usually ask me up here if they just like meet me without my husband or whatever. And they're just like, oh, what are you doing here? Are you a missionary? Like, no, like, because that's usually why expats are up here in the north. They're doing some type of missions work. But I'm like, no, just chilling, living life in Nicaragua.
Yeah, but you did start out by being a missionary, and that's what brought you there originally. Okay, but not anymore. Okay, gotcha. Any hobbies or interests that you can actually add onto your life that seems already busy?
I probably have too many hobbies. I really enjoy crocheting, baking, cooking. I'm trying to be a gardener just because I want to be able to grow my own food. But like you said, it's a busy life. And so it's hard to get around to making sure I have a growing garden that's successful. I enjoy sewing. Yeah, just I'm not like an avid sewer, but on like pillows or little bags or whatever.
That's nice. Anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to include in this interview?
I would say if you ever want to come to Nicaragua, be ready for things that will be kind of like contrary to what you've always thought about Latin America, or contrary to American culture. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but just realize that you're going to find that in whatever place you go to, and you really get like down into the culture that you're going to see those kinds of things. And if someone ever wants to come live here, come and check it out. It's a wonderful place to live, in my opinion. I think the pros outweigh the cons for whatever you may see here.
What would you say are the pros? Let's talk about that, because a lot of the time, and I happen to be co-designing a course for expats so that they can be more successful, and it isn't country exclusive or anything. What are the pros that you would say, like if somebody says, why would I want to move to Nicaragua or any other country from Mexico or anything, but Nicaragua isn't a whole. I really wanted to interview you for so many reasons, because a lot of people know, most people know a lot about Mexico, either by going on vacation, but Nicaragua isn't that well known, What are the pros of you living there? Are you glad you moved there? I have so many questions. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I'm glad I moved here. Nicaragua is pretty special for a lot of different reasons. Simple life. You have a lot of beautiful surroundings, the climate and everything, minus the trash. That would be a con. Just seeing people throwing their trash out in the streets with trash in them, that people just don't have the education to know that that's a very bad idea for the earth and for hygiene and for animals and stuff like that. But beyond that, the climate or the geography is a very beautiful thing. There's a lot of things to see, and I have not explored all of them quite yet, but that is on the to-do list over the next, several years. But I mean, we have mountains, we have beaches, there's beautiful islands over in the Caribbean that are very popular. We have one of the largest lakes on this side of the world, like Nicaragua. It has two volcanic islands in the middle of it. And that's also another really cool place to see. If you like a little bit of adventure, you can go volcano boarding, which is like snowboarding, but going down a mountain and probably scaring you half to death. At least I think that's how I would be if I did that.
Oh, wow, that's something new. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you done it?
I have not. I was thinking about doing it with my sister because she's more the adventurous type, but we didn't get to do it when she was here last week. So maybe in the future. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you just mentioned that your mom just returned to the US after visiting you. How many times has she been down there?
This was her third trip.
Her third trip. What does she say about it? Because
She
you're
loves
more
being-
acclimatized. Yeah.
Yeah. She loves being here. She likes trying out her Spanish with my husband's family and trying the new foods. My sister, it was her first time here, and she definitely enjoyed it. She is a travel blogger, and so this is like her cup of tea to, you know, come try out new places and new foods and stuff. So I know she'll want to come back, especially since she wants to go volcano boarding.
Yeah, volcano boarding. That's going to be stuck in my mind. Of course, my son, my 15-year-old son's going to hear that and he's like, I want to go.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. In what ways has living there changed you as a person?
I think it's made me more dependent on family, and I don't say that in a bad way. I think it's very good because growing up, there were a lot of issues in our family, without going into a lot of details, like emotional, verbal, mental issues going on. And so I didn't really have a family to depend on as much, like my mom a little bit, but she was kind of like between a rock and a hard place and didn't really have a lot of resources or guidance for me necessarily. So when I come to meet my husband's family, it's just really refreshing to have people that just like want to hang out with you, want to talk to you, that want to help you out when you need help and you help them out when they need help, and just a very loving, very caring environment, which is not necessarily something I had growing up. So I think that's been like a really amazing thing for me being here. Get to experience that.
So you in some ways probably feel like you've been the benefactor of being there. Yeah, that being there has blessed your and enriched your life more than it was, right?
For sure. Yeah. Because like in the US, I lived 1,000 miles from my mom being in Kansas. And so it's not like I can just like run by her house. I just had one really close friend, and just because it's such a fast-paced life and you're like, I have to do this, I have to do this. Like I didn't get to have that close, you know, family friend experience like you do here. And here everyone just like comes over to people's houses and says, hey, what you doing? Like bring out the coffee and the bread and just hang out. In the US, that's just not part of the culture. And so
no.
I mean, that was hard for me. I'm like, oh my goodness, people are coming over to my house. Like I don't have food like ready. They're gonna want dinner. Like, that was hard for me, like coming from a planning mentality. But it's also a good thing too, because it helps you get to know people.
Definitely. And really their expectations aren't as high as you probably made them, right?
Right.
When they crash into your home, that doesn't even sound right. When they all of a sudden
well, Americans feel it's that way.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds so invasive. Maybe Americans, we view that as somebody's invading our home. And now what do we do, you know? But it's really not like that at all. Yeah, I remember when I first went to Argentina that I felt like so suffocated at the beginning. You don't realize how individualistic and independent we live in the US, and then you come to a society or culture like a lot of places in Latin America, and there's a lot of togetherness that we're not used to. And so I felt like I pulled away from that. I'm like, I liked it at the beginning, but then it got to be too much, and then you adapt, you know, like everything. And then you're like, how can I live without these people once they're in your life,
Right.
It's kind of, it's a process, definitely.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add to this?
I think that's it.
That's it, okay. Would you like to be contacted? And if so, how can people contact you?
Yeah, people can contact me. I have an Instagram handle that I post pictures and stuff. I'm not very consistent about it, but I do like to share just about what I'm doing in Nicaragua and just anything random about our family. So my handle is that Nica Life,
Okay,
and they can check me out there. I do have a YouTube channel as well, but I have not put anything up there in like a year and a half just because I'm so crazy busy. But maybe one day I'll get back to that. So right now, Instagram is like the best way.
yeah, and I added you this morning, so.
Okay.
Ours is Beyond the Wall Family. So
Okay.
you'll see me liking things on your Instagram and stuff like that. So hold that thought for just a second. For those of you who are watching this interview, thanks for watching, first of all. Please add your comments, feedback, suggestions, whatever you like, because we are building a community, and our goal is to actually get to know you, and obviously for you to get to know us and to communicate, to build this community. We feature a lot of interesting perspectives in these podcast interviews in both English and Spanish. So please join us in future interviews. And Ashley Mercado, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I've learned a lot. What's that called? Volcano
boarding.
Volcano boarding. Okay, that's going on the wish list, on the bucket list.
Awesome.
It would be nice to come down and visit you. Know that you're always
for sure.
to come visit us up in Mexico because we're higher than you.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And you have a place to stay here, so know that.
Oh, well, thank you. That's so sweet. Well, thanks for having me on here. It was really interesting being a part of this.
Thank you, and we'll be very much in touch after this. Have a happy New Year's.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.